In the year of the purest colors, I took advantage of a favor to demand repayment, coaxing the amnesiac Pei Jian into becoming my husband. He scolded me for being shameless, yet still nodded with a flushed face. The wedding dress was only half finished when Pei Jian regained his memory. I packed my little bundle and followed him home, filled with joy. The Pei family was a prominent household, and Pei Jian's mother did not like me, while the servants of the Pei family looked down on me. Even Pei Jian seemed like a different person. Yunya is just a country woman from the countryside. Taking her as a concubine can be considered repaying her for saving my life. A concubine. But I don't become a concubine. I went to Pei Jian's mother and asked her for 500 taels of silver. Since Pei Jian can't be my husband, I'll just use this money to buy one instead. Li Tsuehua from the neighboring village bought her husband. She spent 8 taels of silver and got a tall, strong man who could both wash clothes, cook and work in the fields. I was so envious that I wanted to follow Tsuehua's example and buy a husband too, but after rummaging through the house for half a day, I only managed to fish out a few copper coins from the stove hole. Every time I think of this matter, I feel a deep sense of regret in my heart. Are you even listening to me? A low reprimand pulled my thoughts back. A noble woman dressed in fine silk and brocade sat high on the hall, her gaze sweeping over me with disdainful contempt. The old nanny beside her spoke up to soothe her. Don't be angry, madam. She's just a wild girl from the countryside. What does she know about manners and propriety? As she spoke, she lifted her head and looked at me down her nose. Yunya, you just said that if we give you 500 taels, you'll leave the Pei residence and never bother the young master again. Is that true? I nodded. Of course I'm serious. The old matron snorted coldly and leaned toward the noblewoman's ear as if seeking credit. Madam, you truly have a sharp eye. This girl is indeed someone who would sell her soul for money, despite the young master begging you so earnestly, insisting on taking her as a concubine. Looking at her, there's not an ounce of flesh on her body, yet she has some seductive tricks up her sleeve. I quickly waved my hands in protest. You've misunderstood. I don't become anyone's concubine. The old matron snorted dismissively, as if you were even worthy. I've long heard that you took advantage of the young master's amnesia, demanding he marry you as repayment for a favor. What are you pretending for now? Not become a concubine? Ha! Our Pei family has been a lineage of scholars for generations. Even our concubines are carefully chosen from respectable, pure families. You, with your lowly background, aren't even fit to touch the threshold of our Pei estate. Don't think I can't see through your little scheme. You're just taking advantage of the fact that you saved the young master's life to put on airs here, trying to seek more benefits, aren't you? Hearing this, I got angry. What I want has already been made very clear just now. Just 500 taels. If you're willing to give it, then give it. If not, just say so directly. You do know I'm your young master's savior, don't you? Is this how you humiliate your own master's benefactor? What kind of noble lineage, who would even want to step through your door? You. The old nanny trembled with anger. Utterly uncultured, simply vulgar. I haven't even said the worst of it yet. If you think your young master's life isn't worth 500 taels, then I can just as well not take the money. But the medicinal herbs and food I used on him must be compensated by you. That is what I rightfully deserve. The old nanny was about to curse again, but the noblewoman raised her hand to stop her. You jest, young lady. How could our Pei family be the kind to show no gratitude? The noblewoman touched the golden hairpin on her head, a faint, scornful smile curling at the corner of her lips. Having seen too many greedy and ambitious people trying to climb the social ladder, it's only natural to be a bit cautious. If I've offended you, please don't take it to heart. As she spoke, she waved her hand, and the old nanny reluctantly handed over a 500 tael silver note. Jian promised to marry you when he lost his memory. Although it wasn't his true intention, he is a man of his word. After he returned, he even mentioned to me about taking you as a concubine. Fortunately, the young lady is sensible. Now that you've taken the money, don't forget what you said. I took the banknote, examined it carefully, and tucked it into my robe. Don't worry, Yunya, have always kept my word. With that, I turned and walked out. At the doorway, I paused and turned to look at the old nun who was rolling her eyes at me. And besides, I'm not the one who's unworthy of Pei Jian, it's Pei Jian who's unworthy of me. It's not that I'm arrogant. In our village, Pei Jian truly isn't worthy of me. I lost my father at 8, my mother at 9, and at 10, I chased away my uncle and aunt who came to seize our house and land with a stick. I can wash clothes, cook, weave cloth, and embroider. The sweet potatoes I grow are big and sweet. I know quite a few characters and often help the old lady next door write letters to her grandson who is on the battlefield. I can also identify medicinal herbs on the mountain, and when I have free time, I dig them up to sell for money. When I found Pei Jian, he was covered in blood. Aunt Li from next door earnestly advised, "Yun girl, don't waste your effort. This person probably can't be saved." I reached out and wiped the mud from Pei Jian's face, staring at his handsome features, and my heart stirred a little. Give it a try. What if it works? I took out my treasured old mountain ginseng to keep him alive, then called in the village's barefoot doctor, feeding him one dose of premium herbal medicine after another. To care for him, I didn't dare sleep too soundly at night, even giving up my bed for him and sleeping on a makeshift pallet beside it. Years of savings vanished in an instant, but thankfully, Pei Jian finally woke up, but he had forgotten everything from the past, not even remembering his own name. Aunt Li felt it wasn't worth it for me. "Look, you've spent all your savings, and in the end, you've saved a fool. Yun girl, you've lost big." I chuckled softly. As long as he's alive, that's all that matters. Pei Jian spoke very little, always sitting silently by the door, his handsome face carrying a faint trace of confusion. No matter who tried to talk to him, he wouldn't respond. Only when he sees me does a faint smile ripple at the corner of his lips, his deep pupils gleaming with a dark, bright light. "Yunya, you're back." It's as if he's sitting there just to wait for me. I was hooked like a fish with its mouth wide open. Aunt Li was exasperated by his lack of ambition. "Look at how useless you are. This fool looks so delicate and soft-skinned. He can't even hold a hoe properly, clearly a pampered scholar who's never done a day's work in his life. He has no skills at all. How could he possibly be worthy of you? He's just got a pretty face. Is that really worth getting so worked up over? If you ask me, Butcher Zhong is a much better match for you. He knows how to make money, he's willing to work hard. And if you marry him, you'll never run out of meat to eat." I just kept chuckling. A scholar is good, a scholar is good, a scholar is educated. As for those chores, who does them doesn't matter. Yun have plenty of strength. Butcher Zhong is a decent man, but he goes 10 days to half a month without bathing. And I really can't stand it. I didn't take Aunt Li's words to heart, but Pei Jian did. He stayed silent all evening, and the next day he got up early to cook. In the end, the pot boiled dry, the rice burned, he got soot all over his face and hair, and his clothes were scorched with several big holes. Pei Jian stood awkwardly to the side, his voice filled with self-reproach. "I'm sorry, Yun you saved me, but not only can't I help, I'm just causing you trouble." Oh, that pitiful look of his broke my heart. I tugged at my sleeve to wipe the dust from his face, whispering softly, it's all right, you don't need to do anything. If you really feel bad about it." Pei Jian's dark, bright eyes fixed on me, as if waiting for what I would say next. A wicked thought rose in me, and I spoke. "How about you offer yourself to me instead?" Pei Jian blushed, then turned and ran off like a shy little bride. A strange, almost perverse excitement rose within me. That night, Pei Jian came over with his blanket in his arms. "Yunya, let's switch places. My injuries are almost healed. I can't let you keep sleeping on the floor." I replied with practiced ease, "Why not just offer yourself to me? Then we can both sleep in the bed." Pei Jian was taken aback for a moment, then ran off again. Hehe, how amusing. After that, whenever Pei Jian tried to strike up a conversation with me, I would immediately tell him to offer himself in marriage. Pei Jian looked serious, his brows furrowed in a stern expression. "Yunya, you're a girl. How can you always have such things on your lips?" He turned his head to avoid my gaze, but the tips of his ears were flushed bright red. "Hehe, I don't care, I'm just going to say it. Butcher Zhong came to see me again. He brought meat, hoping to plead his case once more. He said his butcher shop business was getting better and better, and he planned to rent a larger storefront in town. Once he saved enough money, he would buy a small courtyard house." "Sister Yunya." Butcher Zhong scratched his head. "I'm not good with words, but if you're willing to marry me, you won't have to do any work. I promise to give you a good life." My head was spinning, and I had to rack my brains to find the right words. After a long, roundabout explanation, I finally managed to turn him down. I watched Butcher Zhong leave, and when I turned around, I saw Pei Jian standing behind the door, staring at me with a gloomy expression. He leaned against the door with one hand, his fingers nearly digging into the doorframe. Before I could speak, he suddenly let out a low HMPH, turned his back, and ignored me. That evening, when I finished cooking, Pei Jian stared at the meat in his bowl and didn't touch his chopsticks. "What's wrong now, my young master?" Pei Jian's voice was icy cold. "You held his hand today, huh?" "Oh, he was talking about Butcher Zhong." "What holding hands?" "I was just stuffing money into his hand. We can't just take his meat for free, can we?" Pei Jian pursed his lips before finally taking a bite of meat. "Yunya, should I go out and earn money too?" "I already told you, you don't need to do anything," I said between big mouthfuls of food. "I'm not short on money, just a husband. Why don't you offer yourself instead?" I had only meant to say it to tease him and lighten the mood. I thought Pei Jian would scold me again with a stern face for being shameless, but after waiting for a while, I heard him softly say, Before I could even swallow a mouthful of rice, I nearly choked. "What did you say?" "Marry me." Pei Jian blushed, not daring to look at me. I said it's fine. I was so happy I couldn't sleep all night, holding my money jar and counting my meager savings. "Tomorrow I must go to town early to buy a few yards of red cloth. I want to make my wedding dress myself, embroider the red veil, and use good fabric for the wedding quilt. How many tables should we set for the banquet? If possible, I'd like to replace the bed with a larger one. And the leaky roof really needs a proper renovation." As I thought about it, my eyes welled up with tears. "Father, Mother, your daughter is getting married. I will have a home again, a family, and in the future, blood relatives of my own flesh and blood. I will also become a parent myself. Don't worry. Your daughter is strong and capable, and I will surely make my life flourish and prosper." I thought to myself, little did I know that fate is determined by heaven, and in this world, nothing ever goes as one wishes. On the 5th day at the Pei residence, I decided to leave. The bundle was still the same one I had carried when I arrived, patched and worn. The difference was, there were an extra 500 taels of silver notes inside. I sat by the door, waiting for dawn. As the grey mist dispersed, Pei Jian, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, appeared before me. He looked somewhat weary, but upon seeing me, he still managed to force a smile and sat with me on the threshold without saying a word. After a long silence, Pei Jian finally noticed the bundle I had placed beside my hand. He frowned, somewhat uneasy. "Yunya, why did you take this out?" "Throw it away," I replied. I wasn't lying. Now that I have money, the old things from before really should be thrown away. Pei Jian breathed a sigh of relief. "Good, it's good that you threw it away. I'll have someone bring brocade to make you new clothes. Along with gold, silver, and pearl hairpins. You can have whatever style you want. Once we're married," his voice softened. "Once we're married, everything will be fine." His words sounded more like he was comforting himself. But, is it really marriage, or is it taking a concubine? I didn't expose him. After another stretch of silence, Pei Jian spoke again. "Yunya, I'm going on a long journey." "Alright, aren't you going to ask where I'm going?" "Does it matter?" "It doesn't matter." Pei Jian smiled. "What matters is that when I return, we can get married." In truth, I knew he was escorting his cousin, who had been recuperating at the Pei family home, back to Jiangnan, and along the way, they would discuss their marriage. Marrying his cousin was the condition for taking me as his concubine. I had known all these things since the day I asked Pei Jian's mother for money. "Stay here and wait for me." "Okay." Pei Jian looked at me, his expression earnest and pleading, as if waiting for a promise from me. Dawn broke. I held onto the bundle and smiled at him. "Pei Jian, have a safe journey. Have a safe journey. But I won't be waiting for you anymore." After Pei Jian set off, I also boarded the carriage back to my hometown. The carriage swayed and jolted, and in a daze. It reminded me of the road I had traveled. When I first learned that Pei Jian had regained his memory, I was genuinely happy for him. At that time, I was halfway through making my wedding dress. One morning, when I woke up, Pei Jian's gaze toward me felt somewhat off. His once bright, dark eyes had dimmed considerably. He looked at me quietly for a long time before finally speaking. "Yunya, I have regained my memory. It turns out he's not a fool. There are still loved ones far away who worry and care for him. Pei Jian's family is my family. How wonderful. This home has become even livelier. I was so busy slaughtering chickens and ducks that I didn't notice Pei Jian's tightly furrowed brow, nor the deep, lingering worry in his eyes as he looked at me. Yunya. Pei Jian looked at the mess on the floor, his expression unreadable. You don't need to prepare all this. I kept my head down, focused on plucking the chicken feathers. How could I not? I can't go to your house empty-handed for the first time. As I spoke, I remembered something and hurried into the house, rummaging under the cabinet for the medicinal herbs I had treasured for so long. I couldn't bear to sell these. They're perfect to bring back for our parents to nourish their health. Pei Jian opened his mouth, but upon seeing my eager gaze, he sighed softly and ultimately said nothing. I packed up my bulging little bundle and happily followed Pei Jian home. I thought with some trepidation, what if Pei Jian's family didn't like me? No, they won't. Grandma says I'm sweet and likable, Aunt Li says I'm diligent and capable, and people from all around the neighborhood have nothing but praise for me. I pat my little heart. Yunya, oh Yunya, don't be afraid, no one could possibly dislike you. But it wasn't until I stood before the grand and imposing mansion gate that I belatedly realized what Pei Jian's hesitant silence along the way had meant. I've never seen such a large house before. Even the mansion of the wealthiest squire in my old town couldn't compare to a tenth of this place. The vermilion doors were carved with exquisite patterns, and the two stone lions standing guard before them were imposing and majestic. Above, a gilded plaque bearing the name Pei Residence hung high, casting an inexplicable sense of intimidation that weighed heavily on the heart. Oh no, Pei Jian really does seem to be a young master from a wealthy family. The Pei family, having received the news, had long been waiting eagerly at the gate. As soon as we stepped down from the carriage, maids and servants rushed forward in a swarm, separating me from Pei Jian. In the chaos, someone pushed me, someone bumped into me, and someone stepped on my foot. Before I could even cry out in pain, I was shoved aside, watching helplessly as Pei Jian was surrounded and swept forward by the crowd. Several times, he turned back to look for me, but before his gaze could meet mine, it was immediately blocked by others. Pei Jiyun probably went to see his parents. I was taken to a quiet side hall, where several maids unceremoniously opened my bundle and began inspecting each item inside. The head matron raised an eyebrow and looked me up and down. Don't be afraid, miss. According to the rules of the Pei residence, everything brought into the estate must be inspected one by one. I was puzzled. Didn't Pei Jian tell you who I am? The matron seemed displeased that I had called Pei Jian by his name directly. The young master mentioned in his letter that you are a distinguished guest of our Pei residence, but the rules must still be followed. If some ill-intentioned individuals were to sneak in any unsavory items, we servants would have a hard time explaining ourselves. Forget it. Perhaps wealthy families like theirs simply have this many rules. Just bear with it a little longer. Once I see Pei Jian, everything will be fine. I watched as they threw my clothes on the ground. Only after they finished their inspection could I pick up the scattered items. The nanny asked me more questions, covering every detail of what had happened during the months since I rescued Pei Jian. She left nothing out, even down to how many slices of meat he had eaten with each meal. I patiently answered each question one by one, and only then did the nanny nod and leave, leaving a few maidservants to watch over me in the side hall. They wouldn't let me wander around, nor would they speak to me. I felt both aggrieved and uneasy, but I forced myself to hold on. Just bear with it a little longer, and everything will be fine once I see Pei Jian. I sat there like that, waiting from afternoon until dusk, until the sun had set, but Pei Jian never came. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, someone suddenly touched my face. Yunya. Opening my eyes, I saw Pei Jian bending over, gazing at me. He had changed his appearance, dressed in fine silk robes, his long hair tied up with a jade crown, looking elegant and noble beyond words. I was taken aback for a moment, feeling a vague sense of unfamiliarity. Have you been waiting long? Pei Jian avoided my gaze, lowered his head, and took my hand. I'll take you to see mother. In the main hall, maids and servants gathered around, the table laden with rare delicacies, each dish one whose name I could not utter. The noble lady seated at the head of the table lifted her eyelids. This must be Miss Yun, right? Come, sit beside me. Pei Jian led me to sit next to her. The noble lady took my hand, her eyes curving into a smile. "Thanks to you for saving my son. You are the benefactor of our entire Pei household." She personally served me food and poured soup, her words full of warmth and familiarity. The maids and servants who had just been giving me cold looks and rummaging through my belongings were now all wearing smiles on their faces, as if wearing masks. I truly couldn't bring myself to smile. "Miss Yoon, if there's anything you need, just say the word. Gold, silver, treasures, houses, or fertile land, our Pei family will do our utmost to repay you." The noblewoman stared at me without blinking, her eyes holding a depth of meaning I couldn't quite grasp. I quickly waved my hands. "No need, no need, I didn't save him for any of that." The air fell silent for a moment. The noblewoman suddenly released my hand, subtly wiping her palm with a silk handkerchief. She withdrew her smile, her expression growing distant. "I'm tired, let's end it here for today. I advise you to seriously consider what I just said." Turning to Pei Jian, she added, "Since you went missing, your cousin has been worried sick about you day and night, falling ill for quite some time. You should go see her more often." With that, she left, supported by her maid. "Pei Jian," I asked softly, "are you no longer able to marry me?" "No, that's not true." Pei Jian's expression was somewhat flustered. "Yunya, we will definitely get married. My mother, she just doesn't understand you. Give me some time. I will handle all of this. Believe me." "Okay." I was placed in a remote side room. The maids and matrons took turns watching me every day, not even letting me step out of the courtyard gate. They threw the chickens and ducks I brought to the dogs, feigning regret. "The mistress has been fasting recently and abstains from meat. What a waste of your kind intentions, miss." They also tossed the medicinal herbs I had painstakingly dug up into the gutter, sighing with false pity. "Coming from the countryside, you probably haven't seen many fine things. Herbs of this quality are only fit to be used as firewood in the kitchen of our Pei manor." Their mouths spoke apologies, but their eyes were filled with unmistakable disdain and contempt. I wanted to retort, saying that it was this very kind of person who saved your young master's life, but the words reached the tip of my tongue, only to be swallowed back down. In the days that followed, I never saw Pei Jian again. Whenever I asked about him, everyone grew impatient. "The young master is busy accompanying the young lady. Where would he find the time to bother with you?" The young lady, could she be the cousin that Pei Jian's mother had mentioned? I know nothing, sitting by the window every day, counting the leaves falling one by one from the tree outside. At night, I sleep restlessly, dreaming that I have returned to the village. The sweet potatoes in the field are ripe, and I sit on the ridge, holding a potato and taking big, hearty bites. The lush green grass grows as high as my calves, and the fence is covered with newly sprouted vines. Aunt Lee cheerfully gathered duck eggs along the riverbank, the breeze carrying the sweet fragrance of ripening citrus. I jolted awake, staring at the square courtyard, letting cold sweat soak through my clothes. "I don't like it here. I want to go home." I climbed over the wall and left the courtyard, intending to go find Pei Jian. I had overheard a maid mention by chance that he lived in the eastern part of the estate. The Pei residence was exceptionally quiet at night. I avoided the patrolling guards and made my way along the eastern courtyards, checking each one. As I passed the 7th window, I heard a woman's voice coming from inside. "Cousin, come quickly and look at my calligraphy. Has it improved much?" The next moment, Pei Jian's calm voice sounded in the air. Not bad. But it's still far from matching your calligraphy, cousin." The woman spoke with a coquettish tone, then paused before asking, "And what about that country girl you brought back? Can she read and write?" Pei Jian seemed somewhat displeased. "Why do you ask about her?" I heard. My cousin knelt in the ancestral hall for 3 days, begging his mother to take her as a concubine. "Yes, why? Given her background, even if she did you a favor, a few hundred taels of silver would have been enough. Why let her into the household? Did she use her favor to demand repayment, seeing the Pei family's wealth and influence, and cling to your cousin?" Pei Jian sighed softly. "This matter has nothing to do with you, but I'm thinking of you, cousin. I've seen plenty of poor people like her. They're the most cunning and insatiable. I bet she saw you were someone of importance when she saved you. And that's why she tricked you into marrying her. Cousin, you mustn't be fooled by her innocent appearance." The surroundings were utterly silent, the chirping of insects in the grass startlingly sharp. I don't know how much time passed before Pei Jian's voice sounded again. Yunya is just a country woman with no one to rely on. Taking her as a concubine would be a way to repay her for saving my life. His voice was low and hoarse. As he lightly decided my fate, I was locked in that dark, gloomy courtyard, and no one ever asked for my opinion, a concubine. But I won't be a concubine. Even if my origins are humble, I will not become someone's concubine. I turned and went to find Pei Jian's mother. She had asked me before what I wanted, for saving my life. I'll just take 500 taels of silver. Aunt Li started nagging me again. Yun girl, I told you long ago that pretty boy couldn't be relied on. But you wouldn't listen. Now look, you're heartbroken, aren't you? It's a good thing you came to your senses in time. Just come back and live your life steadily. But you just sent off one big fool, and now you bring back another. Oh my, Auntie doesn't even want to say anything about it. The second fool that Aunt Li referred to was named Arjiang, whom I bought from a foreign merchant for 20 taels of silver. That merchant came from Persia and had many foreign slaves in his possession. Arjiang was the only one among them with a Han Chinese face. When I saw him, he was confined in a not-so-spacious wooden cage, his tall frame compressed, making even sitting seem cramped. He wore a tattered linen garment, his hair was disheveled, and his sturdy arms were covered with deep and shallow whip marks. I stood outside the cage, staring at him for a while. He seemed to sense my gaze, his eyelashes lifting slightly to reveal sharp, piercing eyes. Like a beast lurking in the darkness, lust is a disease that needs to be cured. But I feel like my condition is beyond healing. Seeing my interest, the Hu merchant quickly stepped forward to make a pitch. He said that Arjiang was originally a captive of the Xiongnu. Earlier this year, our dynasty dealt a crushing defeat to the Xiongnu, and to show their sincerity, they not only paid tribute but also released our captives. But Arjiang was unlucky. He had already been sold to the Hu merchant before the release. I didn't even haggle over the price and immediately took out 20 taels of silver to buy him. The Hu merchants were ruthless. To prevent slaves from escaping or rebelling, they would feed them drugs that restricted their movement every day, perhaps because he had taken too much medicine. Arjiang seemed a bit dull and slow to react. I seized the opportunity to brainwash him. I bought you, so from now on, you belong to me. Understand? Arjiang's voice was low and pleasant. Understood. You must listen to me. If I tell you to go east, you absolutely cannot go west. Understand? Understood. What will you do if someone bullies me? Hit him. What should you call me? Wife? I nodded in satisfaction, reaching out to poke his firm arm muscles. Hey, that's great. At first glance, I can tell it will help me dig up lots and lots of sweet potatoes. 12. Arjiang can do anything. Every morning, as soon as I open my eyes, the table is already filled with steaming hot meat buns, the house is spotless, and even the leaky roof has already been fixed. Arjiang came back from the river with freshly washed clothes, and after having a meal with me, he went back to work in the fields, turning the soil, weeding, and watering. His movements were clean and efficient. I sat under the big tree, happily munching on sweet potatoes, when we went into the mountains. Arjiang always accompanied me. I would dig for herbs while he hunted for game, and each time he managed to catch plenty of pheasants and hares. I gave some to Granny and Auntie Li. Auntie Li looked thoroughly pleased, praising him over and over, and finally stopped calling him the fool. Arjiang often had nightmares at night. Sometimes I would be startled awake by his heavy breathing. Seeing his pale face and the fine beads of sweat covering his forehead, he seemed to be dreaming of a painful past. His knuckles clenched tightly, almost to the point of drawing blood. He must have been a soldier on the battlefield before, facing slaughter and bloodshed every day. After being captured, he must have endured considerable torment, not to mention later being sold to Hu merchants and becoming a slave. My heart ached unbearably, and I reached out to wake him. Arjiang suddenly grabbed my wrist with such force that it felt as if he were about to crush my bones. The pain brought tears to my eyes. But then I saw Arjiang's eyes snap open, a fierce, murderous glint flashing in their dark depths. I was frozen in fear. Arjiang instantly came to his senses, quickly released my hand, and sat up in a panic. Darling, did I hurt you? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I thought he wanted to touch me but didn't dare. Clumsily wiping the tears from the corner of my eye. Please don't cry. I was wrong. How about you hit me? Without a word, I moved closer under Ajang's uneasy gaze and gently embraced him. Ajang, don't be afraid, no one will hurt you again. I softly patted the man's rigid back. I'll stay with you always. The house was silent inside, while outside the mountain wind howled. Ajang listened to his own increasingly clear, uncontrollable heartbeat, slowly reached out, and hugged her back. His nose filled with a faint, sweet fragrance. He leaned on her shoulder and finally slept soundly that night. After that day, I never made Ajang sleep on the floor again. I gave him half of my bed. And he slept beside me, which indeed brought him much more peace, and he rarely had nightmares anymore. It's just that I have poor sleeping habits. Occasionally, I wake up in the middle of the night to find my leg draped across his waist. Ajang lay there with his eyes wide open, his whole body stiff, the tips of his ears looking as if they were about to drip blood. I awkwardly moved my leg away. Sorry, did I hurt you? Ajang pulled the quilt over his legs, his voice hoarse as if ground by sand. It doesn't hurt. I wrapped myself up in frustration to prevent such a situation from happening again. But the truth was, it was of no use. When I woke up the next morning, not only were my legs wrapped around his waist, but my hands were also clinging to his neck like an octopus. Since we were already sharing a bed, it was time to bring up the matter of marriage. I pulled out the half-finished wedding dress I had been working on and continued sewing. Grandma made her signature sweet cakes. And Auntie Lee eagerly brought over many embroidery patterns for me to see. It's just that Ajiang has been leaving early and returning late lately, and I have no idea what he's been busy with. Late at night, as I finished the last stitch on the wedding dress and looked up, I saw Ajiang leaning against the window frame, resting his head in his hands as he watched me. Caught by my gaze, he grinned, revealing a set of bright white teeth, and with a long stride, he swung his leg over the windowsill and climbed inside. A brocade box appeared in his hand. Darling, Ajiang pulled over a stool and sat down in front of me, his eyes filled with anticipation. Open it and take a look. I did as he said and opened the box. Inside lay a pearl the size of a stone, perfectly round and plump, glowing with a soft, milky white luster. It was clearly priceless at first glance. I widened my eyes. Where did this come from? I hunted a white fox in the mountains and used the fox fur to trade for the money to buy it. This pearl would look beautiful if set in your phoenix crown. I paused for a moment. So you've been disappearing these past few days because you went hunting? Ajang didn't deny it, reaching out to pinch my cheek and asking softly, do you like it? Looking at that pearl, I felt as if I, too, were being cherished like a treasure in someone's heart. I like it very much. Ajang went into the mountains to hunt again, and with nothing else to do, I took the herbs stored at home to sell in town. Yet the usually bustling market was unusually quiet today. After selling my herbs, I sat in the inn eating wontons and overheard the people at the table behind me whispering, did you hear? Another person died in the southern part of the city last night. Really? Someone just died in the northern part a few days ago. What on earth is going on? Lately, there have been so many unfamiliar faces in town, they must be looking for someone. My nephew serves in the camp, and I heard they're looking for young Marquis Wei. Young Marquis Wei, wasn't he killed in battle when he defeated the Xiongnu at the end of last year? Exactly, we all said young Marquis Wei was a young hero, leading 500 elite soldiers in a night raid on the enemy camp, directly destroying the Xiongnu's stronghold and turning the tide of the war. TSK. Isn't that even stranger? If he was so formidable, how could he have died so easily in battle? I heard there was a traitor in the military camp, someone colluded with the Xiongnu and betrayed young Marquis Wei, which is why he went missing. Now, there's no sign of him alive or dead. Who knows whether he's truly dead or alive? Maybe he was lucky and survived. You make a good point. The two who died recently were indeed young men around the same age as young Marquis Wei. As soon as the words were spoken, the group let out a collective sigh of regret. I listened with a pounding heart, so frightened that I couldn't even finish my wontons. I had to hurry back and tell Ajiang things outside weren't safe lately, so it was better to stay indoors if possible. I had only taken a few steps when I heard the people at that table speak up again. By the way, what's the name of that young Marquis Wei? His surname is Wei, given name Zhao, courtesy name Wujiang, Wei Wujiang. I stood frozen in place, a sense of foreboding rising from the depths of my heart. By the time I got home, the sky had already darkened. The further I walked, the more I felt something was off. the surroundings were too quiet. Not even a single chirp of an insect could be heard. The moment I pushed the door open, a cold glint of a blade flashed before my eyes. At the same time, a strong arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me deftly away from the approaching knife tip. When I came to my senses, I saw several figures in black had appeared in the courtyard at some point. A Jiang held me, his gaze coldly sweeping over them, with a chilling intent to kill in his eyes. The leading man in black sneered, "Young Marquis Wei. You've certainly made us search for you." A Jiang ignored him, turning to me and speaking softly, "Wife, go inside and wait for me first." My fingers trembled as I tightly clutched his sleeve. "You, don't die." A Jiang's eyes and brows were tinged with a hint of a smile. "Don't worry, my lady spent money to buy me. I can't bear to see your money go to waste." I entered the room, closed the door, and the only sound left in my ears was the harsh clashing of blades. My mind could no longer think. Instinctively, I rummaged through the chest for a pair of scissors and sat by the table, waiting slowly. I don't know how much time had passed when the door was pushed open a crack. The moment I saw Arjiang, tears began to pour out as if a floodgate had opened. Seeing this, Arjiang panicked, rushing over in a flurry to wipe away my tears. "What's wrong? Are you scared, or are you hurt somewhere?" He checked me over from head to toe. I burst out crying, "Blood, there's blood on you, don't be afraid." "My dear, this isn't my blood." Half believing and half doubting, I followed his lead and carefully examined him from head to toe. Only after confirming he was unharmed did I finally feel at ease. My mind was filled with countless questions, yet I didn't know where to begin. Why is he hiding things from me? Was his kindness towards me also fake? Does he also have a cousin at home? What if his mother wants me to be a concubine too? How much should I ask for this time? 300 taels shouldn't be considered too greedy, right? Arjiang gently stroked my cheek with his fingertip. "What are you thinking about, my dear?" I snapped back to reality and quickly shook my head. "Nothing, my dear. Come back to Qingju with me, alright?" I looked at him, thought for a moment, and asked seriously, "Can you come up with 300 taels of silver? No matter how much my lady wants, I have it." "Alright then, I'll go back with you," I sniffled. "Remember to bring those few local eggs from home." Jiang curled his lips into a smile. "As you command, young Marquis Wei, surnamed Wei, given name Zhao, courtesy name Wujiang, was born in Shangjing. He joined the army at 15 and, over 6 years, achieved remarkable military feats. 2 years ago, when the Xiongnu invaded the border, the war reached a stalemate. Wei Zhao took a desperate risk, personally leading 500 elite soldiers on a night raid against the enemy camp. He killed the Xiongnu chieftain, crushed the main enemy forces, and turned the tide of the battle. But no one could have imagined that someone within the army would betray them, colluding with the Xiongnu to set up an ambush. I watched with my own eyes as my brothers, who had once shared life and death with me, fell one by one before me, all to protect my escape. Every time I close my eyes, their tragic deaths replay in my mind. Arjiang leaned gently against my shoulder, the dampness soaking through my clothes, burning my skin. "My lady, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep it from you. This matter involves far-reaching implications, and behind the traitor lies a complex web of courtly forces. After fighting the enemy, we still have to turn around and fight our own people. It's utterly ridiculous. This battle is bloodless, and until I'm sure I can win, I don't want to drag you into it. But now, only with you by my side can I truly feel at ease. My heart aches so much it feels like it's about to shatter." I knew he had suffered, but I never imagined it was to this extent. I fought back tears, thinking, forget it, I won't even ask for those 300 taels of silver." I gently held his hand and said firmly, "Arjiang, I've killed chickens, slaughtered ducks, and seen blood. I'm not afraid." The air fell silent for a moment, and then a muffled laugh came from the crook of my neck. Arjiang spread my hand open and intertwined his fingers with mine. "Alright, my wife is the most amazing." Qingju was different from what I had imagined. Here, there are mountains and rivers, deserts, and gravel plains. The people are simple and honest, and commerce is thriving. I like it very much. Arjiang took me back to his home. It wasn't a grand mansion with rows of maidservants, but the courtyard was clean and bright, with tall locust trees planted inside. After waiting in the main hall for a while, a woman dressed in martial attire hurried in from outside. Arjiang called out, Mother, I had just risen from my chair when my hand was taken in hers. Good child, you must have suffered greatly along the way. The woman's hair was tied up in a ponytail, giving her a capable and spirited look, with a faint scent of medicine lingering around her. Arjun had told me that his mother was originally a medical practitioner, and after marrying his father, she followed him to Qingju and became a military doctor. Just hearing about it filled me with admiration. I smiled so widely that my canine teeth showed, and after a moment of hesitation, I called her auntie. She seemed a bit surprised but didn't correct me, only looking at me with a kind and affectionate gaze that made me feel incredibly warm. During the meal, she kept putting food on my plate. These are all Qingju specialties. Try them and see if you like them. You've had a tough time lately. Look how thin you've gotten. I was taken aback for a moment, instinctively pinching the soft flesh around my waist. Sure enough, there's a kind of thinness that only elders think you have. I put down my chopsticks, took the water Arjun handed me, and slowly drank it as I listened to them discuss serious matters. Auntie's expression grew much more serious, her tone filled with worry. Ever since your accident, your father has set off back to the capital. Now that His Majesty is gravely ill, the Crown Prince is young, and the left minister's faction is watching like a tiger eyeing its prey. There are undercurrents stirring in the court. It seems we're in for a tough battle. Arjun lowered his gaze. Then we fight. The spies they've planted in the army. I will pull them out one by one and send them back. Good, Aunt nodded, then took my hand. As long as our family is together, there is no battle we cannot win. My room is next to Arjun's. Bright and airy, with a large window that looks out at the round, full moon. The room had been meticulously arranged, every detail showing how much thought had been put into it for my sake. Lying on the soft, large bed, I thought to myself that I really didn't need to worry about those 300 taels anymore. How wonderful. A rustling sound reached my ears, and when I turned my head, Ajiang was climbing in through the window. What are you here for? Ajiang pounced on me like a puppy, wrapping his arms around me and rubbing his sticky cheeks against mine. Darling, I can't sleep without you by my side. I reached out and tried to push him away, but he wouldn't budge. Your mother will find out if you keep this up. My mother knows my nature. She won't bother with such things. I just want to sleep with my wife. I was speechless, but I silently gave in. Sigh, I'll just spoil him then. Arjun's courage had grown quite a bit. He wrapped his arms around my waist, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe, his large hand gently stroking my long hair. After hesitating for a long time, I said, Arjun, I want to study medicine. With my mother. Yeah, I thought he would ask me why, but Arjun just looked at me and smiled. All right, my wife can do whatever she wants. The next day, Arjun brought up the matter. I'm strong, willing to work hard, and know many medicinal herbs. I'm sure I can learn well. My aunt looked at me with pleasant surprise. Without asking if I was afraid of hardship or exhaustion, she nodded in agreement without a second thought. The wounded soldiers' camp housed warriors injured in the war. Some had lost arms, others had broken legs, their bodies wrapped in bandages stained with patches of blood. Yet their faces showed no trace of the weariness brought by pain, only the joy of victory and a resilient, vibrant spirit. An old soldier leaning on a crutch proudly recounted his achievements, claiming he had slain 100 enemies, his blade chipped from the effort. The man with only half an eye left beside me took a sip of medicine and vividly recounted how he had burned down the enemy's grain depot. Amid the laughter and chatter, a young soldier sang a folk song from his hometown in slang. Suddenly, I remembered the bustling, peaceful streets of the city and the people living and working in contentment. So, that was the reason for their pride. There were also women and children in the wounded soldiers' camp. Some had lost their husbands and fathers. Yet here they had become family to one another. The aunties chatted and laughed as they cooked meals and brewed medicine, while the children ran around with peachwood swords. When we entered, everyone greeted us with a smile, calling out, Dr. Lin. Lin was the surname of Arjun's mother. My aunt took my hand. This is Yun-Ya, who will be learning medicine with me from now on, and is Jiang's future wife. Everyone cheered and teased, with the boldest auntie stepping forward to pull me around in a circle for a closer look. Oh my, you can tell at a glance that she's a blessed and good child. I gradually became busier. Every night, Arjun would climb through the window to spend time with me. After massaging my shoulders and legs, He applied a cooling ointment to my sunburned, flushed face. Tired, I nodded. But I've never been this happy and content before. I've learned many new characters and can already read prescriptions to prepare medicine. I've finished reading 2 medical texts. And I know a bit about acupuncture too. My courage has grown so much I don't even tremble when scraping bones or changing dressings for patients. I can treat simple headaches and fevers on my own. When Auntie Chin, who cooks for us, felt dizzy and nauseous, I examined her, and she recovered quickly. She kept calling me Dr. Yoon. I looked up at him from the crook of his arm, my eyes shining brightly. Arjiang, I love this kind of life. Arjiang stared at me for a long time, then lowered his head and gently kissed my forehead. I know, my wife is the most capable of all. The days passed one by one. The traitors in the army were uncovered one by Arjiang, their mastermind was identified, and they were escorted to the capital for trial. The fire followed the fuse all the way, burning onto the left minister. Letters from the capital arrived frequently, and the situation improved day by day. Though I couldn't understand the court politics described in the letters, seeing the increasingly bright smiles on everyone's faces made me happy too. I also cleared a medicinal herb field on the back hill and began trying to grow herbs myself. When the first batch of tender sprouts broke through the soil, I joyfully ran home to share the news, only to see unfamiliar faces in the mansion. Aunt Chin said that there were guests in the mansion. It's the newly appointed magistrate of Rome County, here to pay respects to the Marquis. The Marquis isn't in, so the madam is receiving him. I nodded and continued walking inside. Aunt Chin was still gossiping. You know, this magistrate is young and handsome, and he's not even married yet. Oh, that's not right, Aunt Chin frowned. I heard he has a fiancée who went missing some time ago. He was transferred all the way from the capital just to search for her. Ah, what a devoted soul. I was taken aback for a moment and asked, what's his name? Aunt Chin thought for a while. It seems, his surname is Pei. As soon as the words fell, my wrist was suddenly grabbed by someone, and then I was pulled forcefully into an embrace. Yunya, Pei Jian's voice rang out above my head. Yunya, is it really you? I've finally found you. Ah, Aunt Chin let out a sharp shriek. You scoundrel, how dare you be so rude to my young mistress? Take this, you spoon. Aunt Chin's iron spatula struck Pei Jian's back again and again, but he seemed not to feel it at all, holding me tightly in his arms. Where have you been all these days? Do you know how long I've been looking for you? It's okay, I've found you now. From now on, we'll never be apart again. I frowned and pushed him away abruptly. Master Pei, please behave yourself. Pei Jian stumbled from my push, standing there looking somewhat hurt as he gazed at me. Yunya, what did you just call me? Are you still angry with me? I'm sorry, I know I was wrong. Making you a concubine was never my intention. I've already spoken with my mother. I won't marry my cousin. Once I take you back, we'll get married. What? Aunt Chin exclaimed again. You shameless man still want our Dr. Yoon to be your concubine. My aunt stepped forward, shielding me behind her. Aya, do you know County Magistrate Pei? I briefly explained the past events. After hearing it, Aunt Chin shot Pei Jian another fierce glare. Pei Jian, I said, I saved you, and I took your family's money. We are already even, cleared. Pei Jian let out a self-mocking laugh. How could we ever be cleared? After you left, I searched for you everywhere, but you weren't at home. Aunt Lee and the others said you had gone away. I went back to beg my mother, endured the family punishment, and called off the engagement with my cousin, because I only wanted to marry you. From the capital all the way to now, I finally found you. And you say we're already cleared? Yunya, how could we ever be even? That's your business. It has nothing to do with me, I said coldly. Pei Jian, I'm already married. What did you say? Pei Jian stared wide-eyed. I don't believe it. You're lying to me. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him. So I turned and linked arms with my aunt. Mother, the herbs in the medicine field have sprouted. Shall I take you to see them? As the words fell, Pei Jian's face turned deathly pale. Auntie seemed not to have expected me to address her this way either. She was stunned for a moment before finally reacting. Ah, yes, good. She followed me out, even delivering the order to see the guests off with a smile. Someone, see the guests out. Pei Jian wanted to chase after her, but Aunt Chin stopped him with a ladle. Magistrate Pei, please stop pestering our young mistress. You should leave now. Pei Jian followed her all the way to the wounded soldiers' camp. It seemed he had already inquired around and learned about my relationship with Arjiang. Yunya, you and he are not yet married, it's not too late to turn back now, please don't marry him, okay, come back with me, no one will stop us from being together anymore, give me another chance, please, I'm begging you. I didn't even glance at him, pretending not to hear. My uncles and aunts stood behind me, brandishing canes and wooden sticks. Dr. Yun, do you want us to chase him away for you? I shook my head, just act as if he doesn't exist. After changing the dressings for the injured, I checked the medicinal broth once more. A woman came to me holding the most mischievous chubby child in the camp, saying he had fallen from a height and couldn't walk. I took a look and found that the bone was slightly dislocated, holding little Fatty's ankle. I found the right spot and gave it a twist, with a soft asterisk crack asterisk and a loud wail. I took the chance to pop a piece of malt candy into his mouth. You mustn't climb so high again, understand? Little Fatty nodded with a sniffle. Got it, Sister Yun. The chattering Pei Jiyun suddenly fell silent. Yunya, you're different from before, right? I proudly put my hands on my hips. I think I'm super awesome now too. His eyes dimmed. Pei Jian, I said earnestly, I was always a free-spirited bird. Now, a vaster world awaits me, where I can spread my wings and soar as an eagle. How could I ever be confined to a square courtyard, reduced to a lifeless canary? You know I can never turn back. Pei Jian lowered his head, not daring to look at me again. What if I said I'm willing to wait for you forever, tch? I turned my head and saw Ajiang standing not far away, arms crossed, squinting with an unfriendly gaze fixed on Pei Jian. Magistrate Pei, newly appointed to office, neglects his official duties, abandons the people, and instead chooses to harass my wife without reason here. Such behavior, in the military camp, would be subject to military discipline. Ajiang walked over and gently pulled me into his embrace. Darling, are you tired, hungry? Do you want to eat roast goose tonight? As he spoke, he took my hand and led me home. Behind us, Pei Jian spoke up. Young Marquis, are you aware that Yun Ya once saved my life? I promised to marry her, by acting this way. Are you not taking what belongs to another? Ajiang scoffed again. Saved your life? Who hasn't? My darling spent 20 taels of silver to buy me. Did she ever spend any on you? I started calling her my wife from the very first moment I saw her. And you'd better go find somewhere cool to stay, otherwise, you won't even be able to keep your position as county magistrate. An ungrateful person like you is not worthy of talking about love here. Pei Jian fell completely silent. After that, Pei Jian often appeared around me, but he no longer pestered me with foolish words. Good news came from the capital. The emperor had recovered from his illness. The faction of the left minister was thoroughly investigated, with some families confiscated and others exiled. The marquis was already on his way back to Qingju. In the spring of the following year, Arjiang and I got married. The pearl he had exchanged for the fox fur was set into my phoenix crown, and it truly looked beautiful. The entire Qingju was celebrating, and the aunties in the camp helped me dress and sent me off to be married. I lost my father at 8 and my mother at 9, but now, I have many loved ones. On the day of the wedding, Ajiang even sent someone specifically to keep an eye on Pei Jian. I laughed at him for being childish, but he stubbornly held me and said that not a single thing could go wrong on our joyous day. Fortunately, Pei Jian did nothing at all. The attendant watching Pei Jian said he stood outside the door for a whole day and left silently the next morning. I think he must have let go. Another year passed, and my medical skills had improved greatly. I was already able to practice independently, and the scale of the medicinal herb fields on the mountain had expanded several times, with the herbs growing very well. One day on my way home, I was stopped by someone who looked somewhat familiar. It took me a while to remember it was actually Pei Jian's mother. She looked much older, the former arrogance no longer in her eyes. Miss Yun, I've come this time to apologize to you. In the past, I was wrong to treat a pearl as a fish's eye, but none of this was Yang's fault. Could you? No, I cut her off. Pei Jian is a good official. He has done many practical things for the people of Rome County over the past 2 years, but that's all there is to it. I lifted the cloak covering me, revealing my slightly swollen belly. Mrs. Pei, I am already married. Mrs. Pei froze. After a long moment, She covered her pale face and lowered her head with a bitter smile. I truly brought this upon myself. That evening, Pei Jian came to my door to apologize, saying he had no idea his mother had come to see me without his knowledge. I didn't take this matter to heart, but looking at Pei Jian before me, I was still startled. He had lost a lot of weight, his cheeks sunken, dark circles heavy under his eyes, his gaze filled with numbness. I sighed softly and said, "Magistrate Pei, you must take good care of your health. I'll write a prescription for you to take back and drink." Pei Jian's vacant eyes flickered slightly. After a long silence, he finally nodded and said, "All right. I heard that Pei Jian's mother comes every year, each time urging him to marry, but he never listens." Later, when Pei Jian's mother fell seriously ill, he finally compromised. But only by adopting a pair of orphan children from the camp. The boy was named Pei Yun, and the girl was named Pei Xia. When Jiang heard about this, he almost rushed over to give Pei Jian a beating. After that, every night, Jiang would cling to me in bed, refusing to let go. "Darling, let's have a few more children. I've already thought of names for them: Xiangya, Nyanya, Yia, Panya," just to spite that bastard surnamed Pei. I was so exhausted I could barely keep my eyes open, and I slapped him across the face. "If you're sick, go get yourself treated." Jiang was thoroughly beaten, then leaned his face in again, kissing me intermittently. "Darling, your eyes must only hold me." Sunlight streamed through the cracks in the window, and I nestled in Jiang's arms, falling into a deep sleep. Only you. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.